Peace. Welcome everyone. Um, yeah, willfully, everyone can hear me and everything, but please just shoot me a one or a two or both, whatever it is, just to let me know that I'm heard and I'm loud and clear. Willfully, I'm loud and clear. All right. So I'll wait. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm loud and clear. Appreciate it. All right, cool. So, um, yeah, man. We are now coming to our quartile space. Yeah, and peace, everyone in the chat. I see you too. I mean, you too. We got a. Oh man, dropping stuff. We got a good amount of people here already. So, um, I see y'all have already started fellowshipping, as we say. So that's a good thing. But yeah. So as you know, we've been going through our Genesis, and we've entitled the series "The Real Genesis," right? And really kind of breaking down what that not what that could represent. Of course, as I've said many times, when you're going through the symbolism of a story or a mythology or of any kind of teaching that you didn't write. You always have to, well, it's wise to look at it from an objective space and keep yourself very open to the possibilities of an evolution and even to some degree a mutation of what it is that you understand about what's being said, and keep yourself open to what you could later understand. You know what I mean? So, what you may have noticed as we've been going through this series is that for each chapter I've been doing, I have been placing focus on a different concept, right? So, as opposed to just sticking with the morality or sticking with the esoterics, or the metaphysics, right? Each time we've come together, I've tried to make it a point to show that there are different angles, whether you're dealing with the psychology of a particular story or you're dealing with maybe myth busting, right? So early on, we were able to bust the myth of monotheism, as at least as far as what's shared and depicted in the actual book. That no, it's not a book of monotheism, right? So that was something that we were able to get into very early on, and then also the concept of creation. And some of these things are good, because oftentimes, like I say, when we get into stuff, unfortunately, we don't really get into it. And we jump in and out of systems or in and out of different even religions, right? Without really ever giving them an intellectual try, the old college try, if you will. We tend to jump in, get a little bit, don't really understand, and then move on. And then sometimes it's because we don't really have good study skills. Like we've never really had to study for real. Uh, Oftentimes is because of the way the information is presented to us that we don't necessarily understand that there's different perspectives and different angles that we can look at things through. And then sometimes we don't study the history of what it is that we're actually studying. Like we get trapped into a lot of dogma. So as a result, sometimes it could be some very profound wisdom that's put in front of us, but because we don't have a certain emotional connection to it, we miss all of it. So a lot of times we'll jump over to ATR, or African traditional religion, which again I will reiterate every time I use the term that there's no such thing as African traditional religion. But that term, but we'll jump over there because we have an emotional connection. Like We feel like that's a part of our revolutionary activity, to be able to reclaim a space that we feel our ancestors occupied at some point intellectually and spiritually and traditionally, and be able to situate ourselves there and maybe live out some of that experience. Sometimes we feel that way, and sometimes it's just a statement of rebellion. Getting away from maybe a system that we feel has harmed us or done damage to us, right? So there is an emotional, oftentimes, connection to what we study, right? But your emotions and your logic are not going to exist within the same space at the same time. So that's where it becomes a little tricky to actually get down to the truth, because we're oftentimes swimming in this pool of emotion where we feel that we've achieved some level of reclamation of what was ours, and we just call everything ours. Anything that comes off of the continent of Akibalan is ours. And that doesn't make sense, right? Because again, if you truly understand what you are as a being, you would understand that it's very foolish to localize yourself to one landmass when you know that you existed before there was even solid land. So that's kind of just a trick. So again, I will that as we're going through all of this, that you all have been able to kind of see that there are different angles, right? There are different angles that we can look at things. Now, in this section, we're going to be dealing with, I need to pull it up, right? We're going to be dealing with Genesis 4, right? And Genesis 4 gets cool because, and the reason I'm giving all of this precursor, because in my estimation, Genesis 4 is where we drop out. And what I mean by drop out, a lot of times they'll start reading the Bible or going to church or whatever it is. And there are things that arise that seem to be completely nonsensical, and they're unable to get an answer that is sensible, that brings to some sort of intellectual conclusions. And they'll say, man, I'm not, if I'm going to walk around being confused, I can go be confused at home and not have to wake up and go into this building and go through all of these different strange rituals and stuff like that. And I get you. I'm with you on that one. And it's in my estimation that it's Genesis 4 that we start kind of seeing the stuff that's like, huh? What? Not to say that, I mean, yeah, a serpent that talks, we could, that could be a dropout moment. Like, oh, this doesn't make any sense, or why did he put the tree there if he knew they were going to eat it anyway? That could be the dropout moment where it's like, nah, that doesn't make sense. There's a couple of moments, where we have that, but or like they make one mistake and they gotta go. Like, I thought, what happened to forgiveness and all that other love and good stuff, right? So this is where we hit the moments where it's like, man, I don't want anything to do with this. And I think 4 is where it starts to heat up with your what are they, the WTF? Yeah, you get a lot of your WTF moments, where you just kind of like that. It's hard to get with that. So we're going to get into it. Let me just pull it up. Oh, no, that's the wrong book. That is the wrong book. All right. Yeah. So we're going to get into Genesis 4. Now, just to recap quickly, right? And, I just, before we even get into all that talking and all that teaching, I just will that you all had a great day today, and that your day was peaceful and it was progressive. And if you were in any kind of muck and mire and hole, that today you were able to get a little further out of it, even if you're not completely out of it, but you able to see some relief to some degree. I will that definitely is what's going on with you, and you're in a safe space. You're definitely in a safe space now. If you wasn't in a safe space before, you're in a safe space right now. Um, but yeah, I just will that everything went well for you today, man. And if it didn't go well, it will now. If you're here right now and you rocking out with what we're doing here, this will be a good part of your day. I promise you that it will be a good part of your day. Well, maybe because Genesis 4, we look at some stuff where it might be like, yeah, because we got some Mythbusters, so maybe it'll be an interesting part of your day. I could promise you that. So we'll do that. It will be an interesting part of your day. But yeah, man, before we get into all of that, man, I just will that everybody's whole. You just you just whole. You're in a good space, or at least a balanced space, right? Because it's hard to study this stuff, man. It's really hard to get into it. And hey, peace, nephew, what's happening now? It's really hard to get into this stuff when you don't have the root chakra stuff resolved. When you don't have your survivalism, your foundations, your roots, what you sit on. But the things that you foundate your life on, when they're not straight, it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to get deeper. Oh, give thanks, brother Antonio. Yeah, I had a pretty good day, man. A very, 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 very active and early day. That's why I actually didn't have the the text set up. I'm literally just like, my time was managed well, but that's why we started a little bit late too, because I'm really just like walking right into this, to be honest with you, to give total transparency. And you could probably see it in the redness of my eyes. I didn't really sleep yesterday. I had to get up early today. But it's Sabbath, so a lot of times my day before Sabbath is like that, because I know, like, all right, last push before my 24 hours of sabbatical. So, I'll maybe stay up the night before, or whatever, because it's like, man, I'll sleep it off. You know what I'm saying? I got a whole 24 hours to to recharge, basically. So yeah, so it was good. Thank you. Thank you for the well wishes, as well as you, precious Stepney. But so anyway, let's get into it. Let's get into Genesis 4. And what I'm gonna do, I was thinking about it, right? I'm gonna read it. Just gonna read it, right? And as I read it, for those of you who've maybe not read it in a while, ain't interested, whatever, I want you to hear it as I read it. I won't read too slow, so it won't take up too much time. And I want you to think about what jumps out, like, as far as, like, maybe your WTF moments, like, what are you talking about? Or that's just weird. All right. So we want to start there, because I was thinking about, with this one, I would like to give the experience to some degree of what it is that we go through when we do read these texts without illumination, without understanding, right? When we just read it, like, people say, hey, I read that, but did you, like, study it, or did you just read it, right? So in just reading it, let's just go through it and see what doesn't make any sense. All right. So, and it starts, the right beginning of the chapter, it starts with a sex scene. Like, Genesis 4:1 starts real racy. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. So just before we get into this, the right pronunciation is Cain and Habel. So if you hear me say Cain and Habel, I'm talking about Cain and Abel, right? And she again bare his brother Habel, and Habel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And of course, by Lord, we're talking about Yohevah, or Jehovah or Yahuwah, right? And Habel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof, fat and sexy. Let me start. I don't mess up the scripture. And Habel, and he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted. If thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Habel his brother and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is Habel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out of this day from the face of the earth, and from the face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive from the vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken unto him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he built a city. He builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methusael, and Methusael begot Lamech. And Lamech took unto him two wives, and the name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. And Adah bare Jabal, and he was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal, and he was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, or Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, and was the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God said, she hath appointed me another seed instead of Habel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began man to call upon the name of the Lord. Okay, so I just wanted to read it, right? So we could just look at all the stuff that we probably maybe read at some point before and was just like, crazy, doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. Like, well, it was a lot. It was a lot. Like, who did Cain marry? Did Cain marry his sister? Who are these other people that he married, right? And this mark, it says that the Lord set a mark upon Cain. And here's another great question that a new member asked me recently. Why didn't God kill Cain? Because it's like he's so quick to kill everybody else, like go there, slay everybody. But Cain killed his brother, and like he's like, all right, here's your punishment. Your punishment is you just got to go walk around, like go on a walkabout. Like that's like some crazy kind of non-punishment. I mean, I kind of wish that was like I could get that kind of punishment for a murder rap. Oh, here's your punishment. Oh, you killed so and so over there. All right, so you can't farm anymore, and you gotta walk around, and no one's ever gonna hurt you, or I'm gonna punish them 7 times worse than what they try to do. All right, who you want me to kill? Like, yeah, I'm killing everybody. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a different time. These were the old days. So let's get back to the beginning, right? And feel free to put in the chat like what you say. I try to read fast just because I know, I don't want to take up like a half an hour reading. But if there's anything that you heard or you read on your own before and was like, that doesn't make sense, or like, again, like I said, I feel like 4 is that's the chapter where we want to leave. If you're in church or you're reading the Bible, that's, there's stuff, like I said, that happens before, which may seem difficult to ingest. But I think 4 is a chapter where it's like, nah, I had enough. I had enough, because it's just so many things in there. And I'm not saying, that has to be the response, but I think that's where people get tripped up on 4. And we're going to get into some of that. Top tier speakers said, I didn't understand any of chapter 4 when I read it. Honest response. Yeah, it's very honest. Yeah. There's a lot there, and the first thing we always have to remember is that we're reading a translation. So we're hoping that we're getting the science, but you're not. You're not getting the science. I mean, honestly, even when you're reading the Hebrew, you're not getting the full science of it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So yeah, that's very honest and very understandable. Um, so let's start with. I mean, we could go chronologically like I did the other ones, but what I also would like to do is pick out some of the oddities, some of the zingers, right? And Adam knew Eve, his wife. Now, that right there, knew, because in other parts of the scriptures, we actually have the term entered into, like this one entered into their wife. This one entered into this, or this one lay with this one, that one lay with that. So the first time we get in like a sex scene, we just get, and Adam knew his Eve. Now in like the new international version, it says, and Adam made love to Eve, but that's just stupid. Like a lot of these new translations, it's like they mess a lot of stuff up trying to be relatable, but really they're aligning themselves with secular ideas and cultures. You don't make love. This is dumb. It doesn't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? We made love. Can't make love, and you can't unmake love. It's primal. You know what I mean? So that's just stupid. And you lose the whole value of the concept of knowing, right? Because in symbolism there, what's used is an eye and a door in our ancient Hebrew pictograph, right? So the eye and the door, it represents, yes, being able to see, but being able to, you're going through a doorway, like it's like a womb, but it's almost like seeing the mystery, right? Because it helps you to understand that there was a mystery that, like I said earlier, that Eve represented, or Hawa or Ava. She was a mystery that was taken out of the core of Adama, right? So when it says that, and Adama knew Hawa, his wife, and she conceived, it lets you know that, okay, some of the mystery has been cracked open. But the other part about it that's so important is that, and this is so important, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that they had sex. We assume they had sex because there was a child afterwards, but it doesn't say that. And when there were times when sex was had, it said something specific. So we're going to get into some of that, right? Okay. Sham the Joy says, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. Does that have to do with the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit? Okay, good question. Yeah, when you see those numbers, you always know they're significant. They're just not like arbitrary numbers, or even later, like it'll be 70-fold for me, right? We'll get into that. Antonio said, on my own, I found it interesting that Cain was told the same thing about Abel that Adam was told about. You caught it. Yeah, that Adam was told about Eve, talking about the desire shall be unto you. And then he just up and killed him. LOL. I was like, we're missing some scenes here. I need the director's cut. Yep. Chapter 4. If you're a critical thinker, right? Chapter 4 should have been your first entrance, like that. Where's the rest? That should have been your first clue. When you read chapter 4, you should by now should be like, there's something missing here, right? Because I'll give you a great hint that helps you to understand that something's missing. Sort of something's missing, right? In the beginning, right? Bereshit, right? So we'll just say it like it's normally said. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, right? And I already broke down to you our first segment what that really means in the beginning, right? Or in the mind. But here's the thing: when you translate that from Hebrew over to the English, whereas you would say in the mind of the gods and goddesses, or in the mind of the Elohim, if you were to translate that into English, the word is not the word is the word is right? You might be saying, why didn't you tell us this the first time? This, you know how much I could tell you? There's so much. I told you on Bereshit alone, you could spend a lifetime studying. I could teach you a 10-hour class just on the word Bereshit. It's that deep. There's a lot to it, right? So let's get to it. In a beginning, the Elohim created heaven and earth. In a. Now that you know that it's not the and it's a, what does that tell you? That helps you to understand some things about 4. But if you don't have the right translation, you won't understand the things about 4. So when we read that Cain is married and then he goes out and he's worried about people killing him, and you're like, where these other people come from? In a beginning. So that implies what? There were other beginnings. There were other creations, right? Whether they were creations of people, creations of animals, blah, blah, blah. Would that imply there were several beginnings? That's exactly what it implies. There are multiple, right, MGC? And right, Precious? Right, Christopher? Y'all got it. There are multiple beginnings. Now, why did they just put the word up? Easy enough, right? When they translated it. Why not just put the word up? In a beginning, the Elohim created heaven and earth. It doesn't seem like it would have been so earth-shattering, right? You would have read that and been like, okay, and kept it pushing. But then you might have given credence to other religions, and you might have recognized that maybe at some point you would have came to the understanding that there are multiple Elohim, which are different teachers. Your Elohim is your teacher. And those Elohim taught different nations, as I shared later on, where we talked about the council of the Elohim, right? But anyway, just when you get that part, it makes, well, who did they marry and it makes that make more sense. Now you understand, okay, this was just like let's say, if we're in a research laboratory that has different floors, and we're on floor 7. On floor 7, the beginning of our experiment on floor 7, this is what happened. But let's say there's 30 floors in the building, right? So there's a whole bunch of beginnings. And if I don't have an experiment that goes right, I may move it out of the research laboratory to start something else. Where does it go? I don't know. You go walk around the building. You go wherever you want. You enjoy yourself. So at that point, I might go mingle with some of the other experiments. We'll get into it. So then the nations were different creations. We'll get into it. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, now, in many of the new translations you get and said, I have gotten a man with the help from the Lord. But that was not what it said. It said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. Now, Lord, of course, could be Baal. Well, it is Baal, but it could be master, or it could be husband. But in this form, Lord is Jehovah, right? Or Yahuwah. Now you think about, let's keep it super simple for a second. Let's just keep it simple. Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. Keep it simple. Stay out of the dogma. Don't go back to church. Don't go back to your childhood. Just ride with me right here where we are right now. We got it right in front of you. If you have your book in front of you, you're reading it. I'm not adding anything. I'm speaking from a very objective space. I haven't told you my opinion. None of that stuff. Just ride with me for a second. Let's just read it. What does it say? And Adama knew Hawa, those are the words, or Ava, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. What does that say? I know you caught it. I know you caught it. I won't even say it. I'm going to go to the second one. I'm going to see if anybody puts it in the chat. We're going to make this interactive just because this is the fun chapter. I'm not going to just sit here and preach to y'all. And, not that I do that, but And she again bare his brother Habel, and Habel was a keeper of the sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. Those two right there give us a lot. Those two give us a lot. Two right answers. So Precious says the child is not from Adon, but rather the Lord. The but. Yeah, you see, I emphasized the but. Chawa gave birth to a male child. One of error. If we just read it straight, don't add in any of the cartoons that we saw as children or whatever, yada, 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 right? It tells you something right there that Cain was the Lord's child. Who was the Lord? Yahuwah, Yahweh, Jehovah. Now you might say, but wait, no, that doesn't make sense because Cain and Abel, they were brothers, and Adam knew Eve and all that. But is this the first time we've like read about let's use these words to make it more impactful. Is this the first time we've read about a God having a child with a human? Isn't there an entire belief system built around a God who had a child with a human? Right? Isn't that? And we're looking at the unfurling of something, right? So without dogma, without any guilt or fear, like what am I saying? Just read it. Read it. Okay. Eve or Hawa said, Yahweh gave me a son. But because then when we read 4 and 2, we get, and she again bare his brother Habel, and Habel was a keeper of the sheep. Why didn't it say, and Adam knew Eve again, and she bare his brother Habel? Why didn't it say she said, oh, I have received another son from Yahuwah? Why didn't we get that the second time? Because Habel is the good one, right? Let's we know what we have been taught. Cain or Cain, he's the evil one, and Abel is the good one. So you would think there'd be a little bit more celebration at this point. Like she'd be like, wow, I got 2 sons from Yahuwah. Or Adam, 2 in a row. Boom, boom. Gave me 2 sons. No. She said it starts with Adoma knew Hawa. She conceived and bare Cain, and said, I got this from Yahuwah. This boy is from Yahuwah. And then the second one, bear his brother. And that's just that. Okay. So I hope y'all are, like I said, this this may be the upsetting chapter a little bit, but just if you can ride along, ride along. I understand if you like this is blasphemous. I understand. Some of us are deeply ingrained with what we were given for so many years that it's very difficult to admit sometimes that certain things have been right in front of your face the whole time, but you just see something different. It's hard sometimes. You draw up your own conclusions based on your cultural cues, and what's been given through you through the population of your culture. So let's go to 4 and 3. And I'm not even really doing deep breakdowns, but I'll give you this. So just for your notes, Cain means one that has been possessed, or the possessor, or to possess, or to get, right? So Cain represents to want, to desire, to possess things, right? That's the idea of Cain. Okay. And Habel, Habel has different meanings, but one of the simple meanings is like gift, or like that which brings joy. Habel, right? But it gets a little deeper. But that's a simple one. That's a simple one for you. You know. So all right. So where we at? So we're going to 4:3, right? And I should tell you this too. Yeah, let me give it to you like this too. So if you were to translate Habel, like when we say Abel, this is why they like switch it up on you a little bit. When you say Abel, which they didn't have to say Abel, because it's not like Cain, unless you watching Minister Society. It's not like, or you just like Big Daddy Kane, or you like Kung Fu. It's not like Cain is a normal name to you, where you're gonna be like, oh, Cain, that's like Johnny. So if you're gonna give us a name Cain, you might as well have given us Habel too. Why would you say Abel? Habel means to breathe. Like literally, it means to breathe. But when you use the term able, it actually has a different meaning. That's when it means more like gift, or it's different. So that's why you're hearing me use Cain and Habel, because then that will give you the more real meanings of the actual names. So 4:3, and in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahuwah, and Habel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof, and the Yahuwah had respect unto Habel and to his offering. Okay, so I'm just like doing them two at a time, right? So let's go to 4 and 3. And in the process of the time, it came to pass that Cain brought up the fruit of the ground. Now, why was Cain a tiller of the ground, if you will? Because Cain was taking over the role that his father was. Peace, Cassie Derwin. At this time we had in this time period, we had what we call primogenesis, right? Primogenesis is the concept of like the firstborn child is the special one. The firstborn child, everything, like as far as inheritance and everything goes to the firstborn child. But like your firstborn child is like your redemption, if you will, right? So when you're reading this, and you understand that Cain was tilling the ground, Cain was picking up right where Adam, I don't say left off, but he was following in his stepfathers, because that's what it really was. Cain wasn't his son. You might as well just get into it. The reason this book is or this chapter is like, I call it dropout chapter, where it's like, man, I'm out of here. is because they really butchered this book up, this chapter. They really butchered it, man, big time. Um, Cain's father was Enki. Cain's father was Enki. That's who his father was. Okay. Now you might be like, ain't no Enki in that book. I know. I know ain't no Enki in that book. Go look at the images of some of the ancient images of Enki and Enlil. And what you'll find is some of the old depictions on the reliefs, they look like they're depicted as like dragons since they have the bodies of serpents. I'm telling you, they really butchered this book. You got to understand that these writers, yeah, did they take from the Sumerian tales of 5000 BC? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Did they mangle and mash them up a little bit? A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. They did look, they mashed them just a little. Just enough to keep you from figuring out what the heck is going on here. Like, why is the Most High so upset because I wasn't obedient? Like, damn, like that quick? I got. Well, because if you were created to be a slave race and you disobey your master, you got to go. I made you to mine gold. But then you also read the story of Enki when he was put into the garden and he ate of the forbidden fruit and he was cast out. That story is much older than this story. Okay. Now, am I saying that the Bible's a lie? No, the Bible's awesome. Like, the Bible's like, it's the best thing going. It's the best book out. But you have to know how to read it. And that's where the tricknology is. The tricknology is you're not taught how to read it. When you have these gaps and things like this, you're not taught, like, why is it a gap there? You don't know where to look to fill stuff in. And then the things that make total common sense to you, you're taught to just kind of wave them away when you could really find out what's happening. Right? That's the problem. So we can jump around because we already read the whole story, right? I don't even have to go bit by bit like this, right? So we could jump because we're going to do something different this time. I'm just going to jump right to it. We're going to have fun with it, right? So let's go all the way to when Cain kills his brother, right? And Yahuwah said, let unto him, and the Lord said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. Right? And that word mark actually originally was oath, not mark. So people, they played around with that mark thing so much. There's so many lies. So at one point, it was taught that the mark was dark skin. Right? And this was in early years, this was a justification for the Ma'afa. Because us as melanin rich people, we had the mark of Cain, we were cursed, da 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 da. But we clearly see in even in the Bible that leprosy, which was considered a curse, was the whitening of the skin, right? So the people were already dark, right? So that one it's not gonna fly, And then it was also said that Cain was made into a giant. That was the mark. People were just making up stuff. He was made into a giant, and that was the mark. Then some people said that it was internal and things like that. But it was actually the word mark was oath. An oath was put on him. Now, why didn't he should have just killed him. Like, yo, you killed your brother. Like, your brother, you killed him. You know what I'm saying? But not only did the Most High not kill him, but the Most High said, I'm not going to kill him. Nobody else better not touch him either. Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because Cain was pure blood. Cain was pure. He's a god. You can't touch it. That's freaking Hercules right here. That's why you can't kill him. No, I can't have him killed. He is actually redemption. Yeah, he killed the human. He killed his little human half brother. But he's my pure blood. Because why? And I asked this question before to see if you all would have caught it. After the flood, when all evil was destroyed on the planet, right? And remember, when we get to chapter 6 and we start talking about the flood, why is it? Because you would think like right now, the Most High would have been like, yo, first you ate the fruit, you spoke to the freaking serpent, you gave me this raggedy ass offering, and then you go kill your brother. You know what? While the numbers are low, let me just kill everybody now. Why didn't we just do it now? See, the numbers are going down. I lost like 6 people. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Because all the diehard Hebrews have been tuning in like, his brother dropping some stuff. Daddy like, whoa. whoa. We out of here. Come on. Turn it off. Turn it off. We watch something. Turn on the Prince of Egypt. Yeah, let's watch that again. Let's watch 10 Commandments again. He ain't gonna mess up my Sabbath. But so you would say like, well, why didn't he just kill them now? Like this was like really heinous. Notice that he didn't really get upset to like wipe everybody out until what? Until the Elohim was screwing the humans and making abominations. That's when it was like, yo, and his anger was not with the humans, it was with the other Elohim. Like, what are y'all doing? Y'all down here banging the animals. You down here banging the mongrels. You know, oh man, now we got to start this thing all over again. But then how was there Goliath after the flood? Because Goliath was a Nephilim. That means there was some Nephilim blood still floating around in order for there to be a Goliath later. Because remember, it was only Shem, Ham, and Japheth and Noah and his wife, right? Shem, Ham, and Japheth and their wives, right? Of course, and Noah and his wife. But that's why we get to genealogy. You know how like when you read in these chapters and you get to genealogy part and you're like, I'll skip past that. It doesn't mean anything. That's the trick. See, pastors should really be going through the genealogy because that's where the real science is in the genealogy. I was going to do a whole name breakdown, but we'll do that another time. But I will give you this. Because you remember, what's so deep about this. If Cain was such a bad person, why did he get the first genealogy in the book? The first instance we now have of a rundown of genealogy was Cain, the freaking murderer. That means he was somebody different than who, Pastor Porkchop told you he was. There's an important person that exists in this genealogy. Let's just look at it for a second. Of course, and then you see the L's on the back of the name. So as soon as you see the L, you know they're from Noah's wife was from Cain. Antonio, you rushing ahead on everything. I'm sorry, we're gonna go at the exactly. We're gonna go at the good pace. So the genealogy ends with one person. That's the most important person in all of it. Now, I'm sorry, Antonio, do your thing. I love it. I love what you're doing. Race ahead. Y'all can race ahead. Don't worry about it. I'm right there with you. And it's verse Genesis 4:22. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. Naamah is an important person because that was one of the consorts of Noah. So what happened there? Did anybody kind of figure out what the significance of that is? Because if we're talking about this was Cain's line or Cain's line, he had to be kept alive because he was of the divine blood of the gods. And it was through his divine blood that the gods were in the ark. we could say the gods were in the ark. So when he, when that whole situation happened, why do we have still Nephilim on the earth after? Because the gods were still here through the bloodline of Cain. Very important. Now let's go to some of the concepts here, like with Habel and Cain. Habel was a what we would call a pastoralist, or shepherd, or one who dealt with the sheep, right? Took care of the sheep. And Cain took care of the land, right? So we have here, and this is when I get into the concept with you of like, don't just look at it from one place. You could look at it from a historical perspective. You could look at it metaphysically. You could look at the morality of the stories, but also look at the political aspect too, because it's all in there, right? That's what it says. It's a good book. You just have to know how to read it. It's not as simplistic as people make it. Sometimes I hear people like make jokes, and it's like the joke would be funny if it was more substantiated. Like I've heard people make jokes like, yeah, like who was Cain going to marry? His sister? Like, I would be all right if that made sense, but there's nowhere that is said that no one else existed on the planet. So you're not going to really be able to get that one off. You know what I mean? So you have to learn how to see it from different angles. It's all right there, and it's now of course if you're sharing this information with someone who is not interested in critical thinking, then they're going to be like, I don't get all deep into that. That's your interpretation. There's programmed responses that people have been taught to say to keep themselves away from truth, right? Because they have the curse of Cain or the curse of Cain. What was the curse of Cain? He had to leave the presence of the Most High. That was the whole beef. That's why he was so upset, because this is a time of primogenesis. I'm the firstborn son. I'm supposed to have the best relationship with the Most High. And his name means to possess. He was a tiller of the ground. What did that mean? The ground represents material possessions. He was someone who was all about having material, possessing things. I want this, I want that, I want that. Whereas Habel was a pastoralist, meaning that he was someone who mastered the animal nature with the higher divine nature, right? And Cain's looking at him like, this dude right here, like that's supposed to be me. You see? So when he gave and then he gives a crap offering in the process of time. Whereas, when it talks about Habel giving the flock and the fat is also translated as choice meat. So he gave the best part of the thing, whereas Cain probably just gave him like some old dried up corn or something like that. Here, man, take this, man. I'm Cain. And what that's symbolic of is, like there are certain people who exist on the planet that act as though they have a certain covenant with the Most High because of what they claim to be, even though what they claim to be, they really ain't. Right? I can't say it. I'm already so banned and blocked like all across social media that I don't need anymore. But y'all know what I'm talking about. Little thing that they put back here. You know what I mean? Sometimes they put the little curls, hook up the little curls with with the hot comb, be burning their ears probably, putting curls in. You know what I'm talking about. I can't say it though. So that's some power, right? Isn't that power? Right? Got me like that's power. We need some of that. You know why they got that power? Because they don't work their way up from the bottom like we do. That's another game. It's more technology we fell for. You know what, man? You go to school, get yourself a degree, then just get your foot in, and you start in the mailroom, you work your way up. What kind of stupidness is that? You've never seen those people work their way up. You've never seen them work in the mailroom. They don't do that. They go and get degrees where they start at the top of their career and just go, and then they expand through business acquisition, but they do not work their way up. That's some poor people guidance that's given to a servant class. Yeah, power. But anyway, so Cain had this concept in his mind, like, well, I'm this is hypothesis because I don't know for sure, but I know what this can represent, right? I'm the firstborn, this, that, and the third, and it's the concept a lot of times people have where it's like, just because I claim this thing, that means I already have salvation. And a lot of times you will even have that with those who really know that they are Israel. You know, yo, I'm this, I'm good. You know, I know when for many years coming up with other gods in the nation of gods on earth, it was a similar type of concept we used to have to really speak to a lot. Like, yo, I'm the original man, so I could do this. You know what? Like, no, you just because you claim that, you have to show and prove every single day that you are what you say you are. You know, so that was Cain. Cain was like, I don't have to show and prove, man. I'm the firstborn. And you know who my pops is? Like, don't let me call my daddy down here. Don't let me call my daddy. You know what I'm saying? You ain't my daddy. You ain't my daddy. You know, he come through eyes to pappy. You know, come through start whipping ass. You know what I'm saying? So he had all of that. And it's like, nah, man, you're here on the planet, and I've given you myself, and I've also given you Marduk, my son. This is when it gets deeper. You're like, this ain't none of these names in the book. I know that's the game. But I've given you Marduk, and we're giving you the sciences. We're teaching you what it is, right? But there's also a concept here of like being a pastoralist or being a shepherd versus being an agricultural, and how one age is taking over the other. You know, like the concept of like being a landowner is like being someone who produces certain things, right? And there's like a production age. And then you have the pastoralist, which would be related to like more hunting and fishing and things like that. So there's a competition as well between those two ages of people, ages of society. So that's also part of what the story. See, because ultimately it is the pastoralist who disappears, right? Because we don't like, you don't normally see like people walking around with sheep and stuff anymore. Like, yeah, this is my flock, but you will see farmers, you know. So one disappears and the other one comes forward. So that's also the concept of the death, right? But the death is something even bigger than that, right? The death is also, because remember, Cain is tilling the earth. Adoma. Adoma is the body, right? And there's two important things that happen. If you read this story, and I think Brother Antonio kind of caught it, it does mirror the fall. What you're seeing is an unfurling of a fall. Like, it's just getting worse and worse and worse, like with no redemption. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I said, when you read Genesis, if you know how to read it, you'll notice just in the poetry and the lyricism of it, in the beginning, the words and the phrasing is very succinct. And then as you go forward, it starts to fan out, right? We even getting genealogy and things like that, because you're seeing a seed grow, right? And what are we seeing grow? The seed of the fall. Like, yo, it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, man. Now they out here killing people. You know what I'm saying? Then later on, we get to Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, and now we got this whole Sodom and Gomorrah situation. Like, damn, you know, can it get any worse than this here? Like, they're trying to bang out with angels. Like, you know, that's crazy. That means they must have been gorgeous. You know, like, if you want to bang out with an angel, like, but still, you know. And I mean, I mean, personally, I never really had a problem with like. I feel like less Sodom, more Gomorrah. I can live on Gomorrah. I don't want to live on the Sodom side. Like, if I had to go to like a housing unit, put me in Gomorrah. You know what I'm saying? That's messed up. That's what I'm just saying. Like, but I don't want to be on the side. Don't move me on Sodom side of town. Nah. You know what I mean? Because some days when I get a good batch of shea butter, I'll be glistening. I don't want them looking at me trying to kick my door in. You know what I mean? Literally, my back door. Put me in Gomorrah. You know what I'm saying? I'll figure it out from there. But the point I'm saying, now, you don't want to do that. Just be good, be righteous. But the concept there is that you have several things happening from a political perspective, and then from an energetic perspective, right? You have this person who represents the body. That's Cain, right? Because he's a tiller of the earth. And Aduma, he's like, from the dust that you came from is where you're gonna eat from now, right? So it's representing now one who's serving the body. That's why his name means possess or possessor. He's a foreshadowing or a mirror of our ancient Set. Set again being the energetic or the deity of materialism, right? So the concept there is that when he slays his brother, and his brother represents the divine mind that rules over the animal half, right, who contain the animal part of himself, it represents an era now when we are ruled by our body urges, by our sensuality. So it's what you see is there's an interesting correlation between what happened to Adoma and Hawa and those two. Right. The difference is, and this is where you see the unfurling, things are getting worse. Whereas Adoma and Hawa was like, yeah, we messed up, man. My bad. And Yahoo was like, man, all right, well, you got to go do this now. You got to go over there, and they leave. Everything's quiet. And obviously, if Cain and Habel are making offerings and giving gifts, technically to his grandfather, but if he's giving gifts and things like that, then grandfather / father / brother, it gets deep. But we'll get into the Sumerian thing another time. But if those gifts are being given like that, then obviously they're learning that high priest role from their earthly father, Adoma, right? So there is some level of repentance, like, yeah, we got kicked out, we messed up, but we're going to keep doing what we're supposed to do. Whereas now in this next phase, we have Cain, who's like, man, F it. I'm just going to kill him. F it. Now, of course, when you read the Sumerian tales, you get some of the gap in between. That's what I say chapter 4 is tricky. It wasn't just because one of the things that always intrigued me when I read it was like, what were they doing in the field? Why were they in the field? For what? Because they didn't do their work in the same field. So why were they in the field together? But when you read the story, you read what actually was happening was this. This is not in chapter 4. Over the course of time, it was Habel's fields that started to dry up, his pastoral fields, and he was having an issue with his sheep. The whole sheep and the goats and that's a whole deep thing, because there's an exogenesis concept there. Exogenesis is like the concept that there is life that may have began off the planet, right? So when you read the Sumerian tales, you read about how certain grains and certain animals were brought to the planet Earth in order for this servant class to exist, to live on, right? But the concept there was that he was having trouble with his animals, so he was moving his animals into Cain's lands and was messing up his crops, and that's what the beef actually was. Did you get that in Genesis 4? No. That's what I said. This one, it's there's so much that we lose when, man, when we're being taught by people who are slaves, right? And they are slaves to the Anunnaki, but they haven't decided to rise up and be beyond their masters, right? So they use dogma as a tool of enslavement, straight up. So there's a lot to that, man. But like again, Cain could have easily rectified this situation. All right, this is bad. And here's the other thing. And this is an important thing for those of you who are struggling in relationships. The Most High had already put a mark and a curse on the ground. So why would you give me something that's cursed and expect me to accept it? Right? Now, that's an important thing, believe it or not, like when you think about relationships. Sometimes we're in a relationship and things just aren't going right. And we know that the basis of the relationship is foul, right? Maybe you stole somebody's partner, you deceived the partner you're with now. You're not really telling them the truth of who you are and what you're about. And you sitting here praying, that the Most High will bless your union. I always kind of feel like that sometimes, even like when I see sometimes certain weddings or like people have babies, and it's like you're doing it all wrong. You're doing it all wrong. Like there's no creator in that. There's no respect to be found in that. And it's just like Cain handing up an offering of ground that was already cursed. Like why would the Most High? Why would the Most High fellowship with something that was cursed? And then you didn't even give the best of it. On top of that, to even at least show your heart was in the right place. On top of that, you see, that's an important part. Like just when you look at the psychological aspect of what we do often as just people, we get into messed up relationships. We know that we're in a relationship on a wrong premise, but we still want the Most High to bless it, quote unquote, or we get into a foul business. I'm gonna open up a liquor store, and I can't tell you how many times I've been called to do blessings for businesses. I'm like, I ain't messing with that. I had a sister, I was like less than a month ago. She started in this soul food catering situation, and she's got this hall that is allowing her to work out of it. And she was like, I want you to come, and if you could do a blessing. I was like, nah, call somebody else. And she was like, what do you mean? Come on, Bob, I need you to do this. I was like, yo, what are you serving? I said, I just need to know the menu. And she's like, well, it's nothing that you eat. She's like stalling. She's like, it's nothing. I know how you eat, Baba. It's not what you eat. Like you don't eat, soul food and nothing like that. We don't really have that many vegan dishes. I said, no, I'm not asking if it's vegan. Just what do you serve? And she's like, well, reading, shrimp, crab. I'm like, hell no. How the hell am I gonna bless that? Even if it wasn't that. Like, how much butter are you putting in stuff? Like, that stuff is killing people. Like, you want me to literally bless plates of poison? I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? I can't do that. Like, eat it if you want to eat it. Go ahead, have your fun. You know what I'm saying? But I can't hold a plate of that crap, that heavy, probably 15-pound plate, of brown, gooey, oily, yellow and orange and greasy shite up to the Most High. The Most High blessed it. No, I'm not doing that, man. Get out of here. You know what I'm saying? So she got all, she was like, well, what should I do then? I was like, yo, just make your money until you can't make it anymore. But just don't thank God. So that's like an example. She understood though. She's like, all right, Bob, I get it. But that's just an example of like, we're given divine warnings. Just like Cain was given a divine warning, like, yo, don't you know if you do right, you'll get right? And he, like, the Most High warned him. And what you also see is, Sovereign eats plates of poison. That's all it is, poison. I mean, I went out to eat once with this sister. Well, I was supposed to go out to eat. This is many years ago. And I said that she got all bent out of state, out of shape. We were sitting down. It was supposed to really be a meeting. But when I got there, I realized I saw that damn lipstick. I was like, okay, I know what this is. And she was like, "You're not gonna order something?" And I was like, "Nah, that's poison." And I said it just like that. I was like, "Nah, that's what you eating right there is poison. I don't want none of that." She said, "You don't want no water, no salad?" I was like, "I don't know how they clean their salad. I don't even know if they even clean the salad." And I said, "Do you think they're really using like spring water, or is that just water coming out the tap with some ice cubes on it?" I was like, "I'm good. I don't need none of that." And she was like, "Dang, you making me feel bad, huh?" You know, whatever. I said, "You sitting there eating poison. What you want me to do? What you want me to say? You want me to say something else? You know, beat it." So anyway, so that's a lot of times what we do, man. We put forward something that's cursed. We know it ain't right, and I've done it. You know, I'm not just speaking from a point of piety, man. You know, but the beauty is when you do it and you know, like if something goes left, this is when you're going to take accountability and say, okay, wait, let me backtrack. You know, what did I do? You know, like there's been relationships I've been in like that where it's like, you didn't start out right. You know what I'm saying? Or you didn't court that woman properly, or you didn't do the proper intel on her family or her or this or that. And then it goes left. And then instead of like, yeah, man, these sisters are crazy. You know, instead of doing that, you pull back, say, wait, all right, what did I do? Because I probably violated the process. You know, if you're in a situation and your relationship falls apart and you don't know why it fell apart, you you have no business being in a relationship. You're supposed to, especially as a man, you're supposed to always know why your situation fell apart every single time, whether it was you, her, whatever. But you're supposed to be in control and master of your homestead that you know exactly why. Yeah, she blew. You know, she left. You know, and I know exactly why she left, or this and that. And maybe it's because my game was leaking. Maybe because I knew I was maybe laid up and booed up in the bed with her too much, and she got turned off, man. Because when she first met me, I was out here doing things, doing big things and whatever, and then got with her, and I don't know, I fell in love or something like that, and I don't know whatever happens, or I don't know whatever a woman may see, but you're supposed to know that this is what happened, you know. But yeah, so that's what happened, right? Now, why did Cain like straight up kill Habel? I'm gonna tell you why. Because he couldn't kill his pops. See, that's an important psychological aspect to this too. A lot of times when you have favor with the Most High, because you remember the whole riff was not just Habel was encroaching upon his brother's lands. That was secondary to the fact that Habel had favor when I'm the firstborn. I'm supposed to have the favor. Again, we're dealing with the ancient custom of primogenesis. I'm the firstborn. I get all the inheritance. I get this. I get that. This dude is over here. He's in the way. Basically, he's in the way. You know, and remember when Adam received his notification, because I really don't want to call it a curse, because they weren't cursed. Like I said, it wasn't a curse. The serpent who was really, this is really a beef between Inky and Lil. But we'll do that another time. I know just me saying that was a lot. That was a lot to hear. I know. So when he says, right, and unto Adoma, this is Genesis 3, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground, because he's connected to the ground, for thy sake. Now, this is the important thing. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. Now, you might be like, I don't get it. Like, what does that mean? Like, am I going to be able to eat? But it was similar to what he said to Cain, if you notice. When he said, let's go back. There's so much that was similar, but we'll go through it. He said, when thou tillest, this is 4:12, when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. Woo, rough stuff. Now, what does that mean? Like, he's like, basically, you just said the same thing you said to my pops. So, I mean, technically, ain't nothing changed. It would almost seem, right? But this is what was being said. It means that you're going to lose your synchronization with nature. So it's not that, you won't be able to yield fruit or to eat from the land or anything, but whereas before you were in total sync with your natural environment and these things would just come automatically and you knew when it was time to plant, when it was time to yield things, so forth and so on. Now that's not going to happen. Now you're going to struggle to figure out, because remember, you're made from the same exact thing that you are extracting sustenance and fortification from. So now the same exact thing that you come from, you're going to be out of sync with. That's what it meant to now have to work and by the sweat of your brow and you will eat bread and all that stuff like that. That's what he was saying. He was not saying that, oh, before I would just give you whatever you wanted and now you got to go get it yourself. What he was, because remember, man's physical body was created in order to till the ground. So he had to till and serve anyway. He was doing that already. But the difference was that me and the earth are one. I'm Adom. The earth is Adoma. We are one body here. So now the Most High brings the scissors and says, now you're not. You see? So now, unlike when there's a tornado coming and the horses start going crazy and the rabbits go run on the ground, you don't even know what the heck is getting ready to happen. You're just like, oh, there's a nice breeze coming through. And next thing you know, your home, the roof is getting ripped off. You see, because you're not in tune. Or you pick up 2 apples and you can't tell which one is GMO. You can't tell which one has had human growth hormone, hormone injected into you. You don't know because you're out of sync now with this particular with the earth now. You don't have that linkage with it. So that's what that means. And so to no longer be under the curse, right? You know what, top tier speakers, I was going to use that example, but I just didn't. So I'm glad you said that. Reminds me of why we have to use diapers, because we are out of sync. Exactly. Years ago, I think I said that on a podcast or a lecture. I used to talk about that, how that's a sign of us. We're not even in sync with the bodies of our children. We have to use diapers because we don't know when they need to go to the bathroom. We don't know what time they're going to go to the bathroom. We don't even know when they're going to sleep or anything like that. So, you think about when you go to places where people are more in sync, they strap their babies to their back. Those mothers strap their babies to the back, no diaper. But you never see the mother with feces and urine all over their back or anything like that. How is it that they know when the baby, needs to go to the bathroom or when the baby needs to eat, because they're in sync? But these are also the same environments where you'll see a woman with a baby strapped to her back and she's carrying 40 pounds on her head, walking up a hill. Or sometimes jogging up a hill with sandals on. You see? Oh man, I got to get back home. But and what that is, that's a woman whose spine is in alignment with the planet. The planet isn't, like this. The planet is on an axis. So that means in order for me to have proper balance, I have to be in tune with the axis of the planet. So if I'm carrying a big thing of water or whatever on my head, or sometimes you see the sisters with what we call it frytol. If any of you have ever been to the continent, you know about frytol. Frytol is like what do they call it here? Not Cascade. Crisco, the stuff they fry food in, the oil, that nasty oil you have no business eating, canola oil, right? Stuff like that. But it's just oil that you use to fry food and whatever. But you can get it and really we use the jugs for water. I have them at my place. So after you're done with the jugs from the Frytol, then you keep the jugs, you clean them out, and you can use them to carry water because I think they're 5 gallons, something like that. So I keep them at my place just because sometimes your water goes out and you need to bathe, you have some extra water on the side, right? But yeah, you'll see a sis, baby on the back, 2 cans of water, and things are heavy too. One in each hand and one on the head. And she's moving, trying to catch the chocho, trying to catch the bus. You see what I'm saying? Nothing's spilling, nothing's dropping, baby sleep. That's being in sync with Adoma. That's being in sync with the planet. And I know some of you may hear that and you may be like, man, so are you telling me those people have gotten saved? Are they saved and sanctified and this and that? Some cultures didn't stray. That's why you can go to certain cultures and you will see the remnants of what Hebrews still are today, even down to what they wear. That's why it's so important when you study these things, because I've had people ask me that, like, oh, so you're not dealing with African sciences anymore? And I'm like, again, please, there's no such thing as African sciences. You may hear me use those terms just to pull you to put your mind in a certain concept, but I don't really use them much, maybe in like a show title or something because it's catchy. But the first thing you have to understand, which you've been taught not to understand, is Israel is Northeast Africa. And you don't think anything else than that because that's the truth. It's Northeast Africa. First, the old form what they spoke in Eritrea or even Ethiopia, as well as Amharic, which they still speak in Ethiopia, and Tigrinya, which they speak in Eritrea or Eritrea, right? Either one you say is fine. So just as we look at Amharic as an African language, African people, even though they don't call themselves Africans, they call themselves Habashai. They'll tell you in a second, I am not African, I'm Habashai. And you're right, you're not African, you're Habashai. Gotcha. And you have Eritreans who speak Tigrinya. Then you have both groups. Many of them speak Hebrew, right? Arabic comes a little bit later, but these are quote unquote African tongues. So when you hear me using these words, I want you to understand, if it feels better for you to think of it this way, I am speaking an African language. When you hear me speaking Hebrew, I am speaking an African language. Oh, I cut out for a short time. Uh-oh, am I back? Tell me if I'm back. I must be back if you said I cut out for a short time. We lost you for a few right after East Africa is Israel. Oh, God. So you lost. So we lost everything. All right. So what I was saying is that, okay, so I'll say it again real quick. So when you hear me speaking and using, I'm assuming, well, MGC said I'm back. Okay, thank you. Right. Okay, so Israel is Northeast Africa. First thing you got to understand, very important. And Hebrew is classified as an Afro-Shemitic language. And isn't it funny where it dropped out? I mean, just sidebar. I could talk about certain things all day, but when I talk about certain other things, my doggone Instagram channel, I've been blocked going on a year and a half. And I've been blocked since June of, what are we in, 2021? June of 2020. Just now, I can now click like on people who comment on my stuff, but I still can't comment, still can't put captions, still can't follow anybody. No one can tag me. You know what I'm saying? All because of a couple, you know what I mean? So anyway, let me get back to it. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying though, like my little channel here, there's only like 25 people here. Like you even know 25, they know. No. But anyway, so it's an Afro-Semitic tongue. And that language has sister languages, as they're called, and two of the sister languages, which I was saying when we cut off, was or is, excuse me, Gais, which is an ancient tongue that was spoken in Eritrea as well as Ethiopia and parts of Somalia, and as well as Amharic, as well as Tigrinya, and then later on Arabic. Now, just like when you would, if you might hear Amharic or you might hear Tigrinya, you say, "Oh, that's an African language." Hebrew is it's a sister tongue. They'll those three languages or four. I think I mentioned four. Those are all considered Afro-Semitic languages. Amharic is Afro-Semitic. Tigrinya is Afro-Semitic. Gais is Afro-Semitic. Hebrew is Afro-Semitic. I want you to let that sink in for a second. Because if the homeland is not in Africa, why would it be called Afro-Semitic? So when you hear me speaking that language, I want you to be clear and understand that I'm taking you to your root. I'm not taking you away from it. Because some people have gotten a little confused about that. But those are sister languages. And it's just like if you speak to someone who's Ethiopian or Eritrean, they will tell you, I'm Habesha, right? An Ethiopian person, excuse me, may speak Amharic. And like I said, I was saying when I cut off, if it's more comfortable for you, for me to say, I'm speaking Hebrew, so it's an African language. If you want to hear it that way, that's fine. It's not technically an African language. It's Hebrew. It's, but just like someone who speaks Amharic, who's from Ethiopia, they won't say I'm speaking an African language. They'll say I'm Habeshai and I'm speaking the language of my people, right? They don't classify themselves as Africans, and they should not classify themselves as Africans. They classify themselves as Habeshai or Ethiopians or Eritreans, or Somalians, whatever, right? But anyway, so I just want to make that very clear to you, because when you start to understand why so much is hidden, yeah, you'll start to get it more, you'll start to get it more like, why would these little details left out, why would you call it the Tower of Babel when it was really a big pyramid? Then you might look and say, well, who the heck builds pyramids? Oh. And then even when you look at some of the names, like the things that you're reading about, like the tribalism that you read about in the Bible, does it sound like it's not what you think an African is? I mean, if you could take your mind out of the images that they've shown you before, and if you can look at non-African cultures, you don't even hear names that sound like Methuselah. That sounds so gangster. Methuselah. Look at how you got to say it. You know what I'm saying? My wife's name is Adah, Zillah, Obadiah. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing. These names sound very, let me just use the other word, black. These are clearly black people. You know what I'm saying? You could hear it just in the names and in the way they act. The stuff they do wrong, it's like, yeah, that's kind of, see, I could say this word all day, niggerish. They're real niggery sometimes in the book. I won't get cut off on that. I'll probably get more views and likes if I say that. That's how it goes on. But anyway, so that was the issue, right? And it's an important thing for you to understand that, yeah, I always know my place. Don't think I'm rambling. Everything is connected. That was the issue there, in that when someone has placement with the Most High and you can't riff with the Most High, what do you want to do? You want to hurt the person who has that placement. We deal with that in Anu all the time. Someone leaves or gets kicked out. What do? They start jumping in everybody's inbox. Oh, you should leave. You shouldn't be in Anu anymore because they're like this and like that. Because you don't have position. So because you don't have position, you now are jealous of the people who do have position, and you want to strike up and kill them. So what does killing mean? Killing just doesn't mean that you jump in their inboxes, you want to set them up to be murdered. Killing means you could kill a dream. You could kill someone's thought. You could kill someone's happiness. When it says thou shalt not kill, notice in that commandment, thou shalt not kill, doesn't tell you what you're not killing. It doesn't say thou shalt not kill people. It just says thou shalt not kill. Don't kill my dream. Don't kill my vibe. You know what I mean? There's so many things you look at that don't kill my momentum. You see, it's not your place to do that. So that was the science there of Cain rising up against Habel. Was like, oh, he likes you more, and you the younger, you my little brother, and dost thou not knoweth I am the son of a god? It was on that type of vibe too. Like, yo, you got to go, and you encroaching on my land. So first you encroach on my birthright because you're the one that's. But see, Cain didn't understand the value and the importance of mastering the land. What Enki and Marduk were trying to show him, like this is important. He didn't understand that, so he wigged out. But either way, he had divine blood in him, so it was like, well, we can't kill him. Can't kill him. I ain't gonna kill my son now. I ain't gonna kill my son. Now it gets deeper. Gets deeper when we get to the Greek Testament. And I want you guys to get used to saying that. Don't say Old Testament, New Testament. It's kind of disrespectful. There's the Hebrew Testament, and then there's the Greek Testament. All right. But like I said, Cain, he kills Habel out of, it's an unrighteous anger because he wants to kill the one that has pleased Yahuwah. Or pleased Yahuwah, or is another name for Ewa, which is another name for Enki, or Yahweh. Yewa, Ewa, Yahweh, Yahuwah, Enki. Don't worry, one day I will. We'll get there. I'll teach you one day, right? Some stuff is not for YouTube too. Some stuff you speak about in private, because this is when we get to now the secrets. The secrets of what's actually going on, So now, but notice again, you see the correlation. Yahuwah says, "Where's your brother Habel?" Right, and like he doesn't know where he's at. But remember, he did the same exact thing when he said to Adoma, he said, "Where are you?" Right? He already knew. He said, "Yo, who told you naked?" He already knew something was up, but he said, "Who told you you naked?" Right? So again, you see, he gives Cain an opportunity for accountability. Where are you? Tell me where your brother is. Because now, how do we know he already knew? Because he was like, "Yo, your brother's blood is crying out from the earth." So that means he already knew what happened, but he was giving Cain an opportunity to, in this particular verse, he was giving him an opportunity. And then of course, Cain is just like, "Yo, am I my brother's keeper?" And that word is shamir in the ancient Hebrew, which means guard. Am I the one that's supposed to guard my brother? Yeah, you are the guard. See, now again, you might say, why would they use the word keeper when they could use the word guard? Because when you use the word guard, it gives you more information. Because it's like you're supposed to guard the Sabbat, right? So it was Cain who was supposed, Adoma, who was supposed to guard the garden. That was his job, guard the garden. He screwed up. So then now you have his stepson, Cain, who was really, like I said, the son of Enki. And now, because he's a son of Enki, he's really a Nephilim. So is his job now to guard the earthlings? Yes. So when he speaks to his father, who was Yahweh, and he says, or Yahweh, Ewa, Enki, whichever one you want to go with, and he says, "Yo, am I supposed to? I don't know where he's at. Am I his guard?" "Yeah, you're his guard." "Why would I put you here? Why would I go?" Because you got to remember that Enki was a genetic scientist. That's an important thing for you to remember. Enki was a genetic scientist. So of course he's like, "Why would I put my seed, because the symbol for Enki is a seed in water, which is sperm. So why would I put my seed in Ava or Hawa or Eve if it was not for you to perform a divine task? That's why I can't kill you. You killed this guy, I can't kill you, because I know I have to. Your seed has to extend. There has to be deities on the planet, but we'll get into that. So again, what you see in this scripture is Cain, when he's punished, is basically it's a more heightened level of what Adoma received, and it's basically like you have now you've placed yourself in further misalignment with the ground. Whereas like he told Adama, like, yo, it's gonna be thorns and thistles that's gonna come up, which again, like I said, just means you're gonna lose your rhythm. The rhythm that you had with the planet, Rhythm Nation, Janet Jackson, that's done. So now it's going to be a whole lot of guesswork. What you think about is a lot of what we deal with, guesswork. We don't know what's happening. Hurricanes and earthquakes and stuff. We don't even know. It's always taking us by surprise. That is because of the curse, because we are out of step with the planet because of that fall, right? But the deeper issue was not just being out of step with the planet. So when he goes to Cain, he was like, now it's going to be even worse for you. You're going to be even further out of step. And you got to remember that Cain means to possess. So it's like, I'm going to be out of step with the very thing that I want. That one, oh God, that'll almost bring tears to your eyes. If you do the work that I do, it's so sad. I talk to people all the time in my work who want and want and want and want. And I ask them, why do you want that? I don't know. I need more money. Why do you need more money? So I can have it. What are you going to do with it when you get it? Just in case. So out of step with even the material environment, but yet you still have this deep desire to possess it. How many people, I used to always say this to my children all the time when they would be, getting up in their teenage years and start looking at cars. Yeah, I want to get this. I want to get that. And I used to tell them, like, especially my boys, like, you just want to get those cars to impress girls. Because, maybe older guy, whatever, is pulled up to school or something. And, he's got a vet or something like that. And all the girls are standing. And I would always say this to my sons, yo, do you think any of those girls you're trying to impress know how to work on cars? Probably not, right? So what the hell do you care that if they don't even know what the hell it is? You get yourself a Honda Accord and strip all the emblems off of it. You tell them it's a Benz. They won't know. They don't even know what the hell it is. They don't know what's under the engine. They don't know how it runs. They don't know what the mileage is. They wouldn't even think to look at the odometer, how much mileage. They don't even know what the hell it is. But this is what and you don't know what the hell it is. You couldn't take that Benz apart down to the ground and put it back together, but you got to have it. So that's a part of the curse. That's a part of the curse. You see? So there's a restlessness. So when it says that now you will wander the earth as a vagabond, that wandering represents a restlessness of not really truly knowing what you want in life, but going all through the earth and trying to grab, I want some of this, I want some of that, want some of that, some of that, but not being able to build on any type of foundation of anything. You're not building on anything solid at this point. And why is that? Because you've been driven away from my presence. Remember, that was part of his curse. He sent them away from the presence. That was the very thing that Cain wanted. He wanted it all. He wanted to possess this. I want to possess what my brother has. I want. And then the Most High said, now you can't even be around. I don't want you around me. That was the worst part of the whole thing. Because you got to remember when Adoma and Hawa was sent out, they were sent out where? East of the garden. So even when they were sent away, they were still put into a specific place where the Most High could still get to him. But it's just like, you can't be in the laboratory anymore. But I know where you're at. You can still bring me. You can still even bring me offerings. We can still rap. But you getting out of my garden. But now with Cain, he's like, now you just go wander. And remember, it says that he then went to the land of Nod. Nod means to toss. So it's saying that he went to the land of Nod. It's saying that he went to a place where he was just tossing about with no objective, with no aim, with no purpose in life. That is the curse. See, when you're reading these things, you have to understand that don't externalize it so much. So when you're reading about Cain or Habel, or you're reading about Adoma or Hawa, or even the serpent, or this battle between Enki and Enlil, don't read it so much and look at it like it's just an interesting story, outside of you. But try to look at it like these are, because they are, these are functions of my consciousness. And these are potentials of my consciousness. Because why was Habel slain in a field? Because Habel was turned into a seed. That's what that represented. He was planted. Because think about when you plant a seed, what has to happen for a seed to grow? It has to die. You have to plant it into the ground. And what it was, it's not going to be, it was a little small, round or oblong, whatever shaped, hard object. I put it in the ground. It bust apart. It was down there in the dark. It can't see the light of the sun, nothing. It bust apart and then sprung up to become something completely different, right? That's a form of death. So when he rose up over Habel and he slayed him in the field, that was a form of resurrection. You see, that was a form of reincarnation. Now I'm going to put that blood into the earth. And remember, what is the earth? So when the Most High was saying the blood is taken, the earth has taken your brother's blood and cries out. Remember, the earth is Adoma, is you. It's your body. So you have replanted your brother back into the gene pool again. That's what that was saying. So to be clear, like, that restlessness is a key part. And like I said, you may hear me saying certain terms like Enki, Enlil. It like I said, this story is it's cut up. Chapter 4 is the butcher chapter. I would say chapters 1 through 3, excuse me, you can figure out what's going on just if you know the Hebrew. I would say, right? It's not until you get to 4 where it's like, wait a minute, you have to now use a lot of assumption, to try to figure out what's going on. I mean, you still get a good story. Don't get me wrong. You get a good story, but when you read about Enki and Enki being in the paradise of what they call Dilim, and Dilim was a garden that when they translated into English, it translated into Eden, Edin. But that's not really that accurate, but either way. And there were 8 forbidden fruits that he ate. And there was a goddess there, or a feminine archetype called Ninsarhag. And Ninsarhag was like, yo, I told you don't eat that fruit. So can you guess what happened to Enki after he ate the 8 forbidden fruits that he was told not to eat in the sacred garden? Also, there was a part where she put Enki to sleep. And because basically when he ate the fruit, it was like, all right, now you got to die. Yeah, we're getting there, precious. We're getting there, right? So she was like, but first, the story, they jumbled it up a little bit. He's like, you got to die. I told you don't eat those fruit. If you eat the fruit, you die, right? Same story. You eat the fruit, you die. So what happened was, before he was supposed to die, she puts him to sleep. Yes, Dilmun is the same as Tillman. And neither one of them are that anyway. Like I said, a lot of times when they translate, they call it Eden, but it's not. That's not really intellectually honest, to be honest, because Eden in the Hebrew, Edin, what you would say Eden and Eden, they're not the same. They don't mean the same thing, if you will. Um, in fact, they kind of mean the opposite, because Dilman is more like path or struggle, whereas is Eden is more like pleasure, but either way. So yeah, she puts him to sleep. And right when he's like getting ready to die, she takes out his rib. This is 5000 BC. We talking about this story from tablets, right? And this is not me adding any. Again, I want to reiterate. I'm not adding anything, and I'm just telling you the story. You look this up for yourself. Look it up, please. I want you to look it up. So yeah, it takes the rib, and Enlil, his brother, comes forward, and Enlil's like, look, don't kill him. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he's he's a knucklehead. That's my brother, but don't kill him. And essentially, there were different archetypes who came along and like advocated for Enki and like put his body together. It was like brought him back to life, if you will. But there was an archetype by the name of Ninti, and Ninti was the one who healed his rib. And Ninti, and some of the text is actually called Kiki, which I always thought was interesting, Kiki, right? But Ninti was later to be called Lady of the Rib, or sometimes she was called Lady of Life or the Mother of Life. Sound familiar? You sisters just did a presentation in Sabbath Call recently. This was inside of our new space. Does that name sound like somebody to y'all? I'm gonna let you put it in the chat. Let me see if you caught it. Ninti was called the Lady of Life or the Giver of Life as well, or the Lady of the Rib. It was 3 different terms. Ninti is my daughter's name, of course. Utu. I'm not surprised. I mean, your name is Utu, so we know where you coming from. Right, you got it. Hawa, right, or Eve. Ninti is Eve, or rather, Eve is Ninti. Ninti's story is much older than Adam and Eve. Okay, but you see that the correlation. You see, right? Shawa. So, and then, yeah, we'll get into the Sumerian piece because then we have Shamat. There are several terms that would correlate with Hawa or with Eve, and then several ones that would also correlate, like Enkidu, which is really a place, but Adapa was the one that you hear the most. Adapa, which of course sounds like what? Adama or Adam, right? But these are the Mesopotamian stories. So I'm just going through the scriptures a little bit here. So we went through this, right? And the important thing to think about it too, when we're speaking about with Cain, or Cain, one of the reasons he couldn't be killed because he represented the best of what was. He was, as we say, like in the Mesopotamian, like Anu spoke about Enki, who was his son, because Anu was in this story too. Anu was the one at the time of Noah who was like the god of gods, who was like, yo, kill everything. What are y'all doing? Because you remember, these are his children. And we proved that already. I gave you that earlier in this series when I told you, yo, there's a council of gods. I told you, I gave you that. I showed you the scriptural. I kept it in the Bible though. So for those of y'all like he talking about Sumerian stuff, I kept it in the Bible that whole time. I proved that there were more than one. They said it right there in Psalms, right? Sits among the council of the gods, right? So if there's a council, is it possible that there's a head of the council or like a, top person? Yeah, that's Anu. So Anu is that most high, which is another term that's used for Anu, um, who in like the sixth chapter Genesis is like, yo, y'all sleeping with the daughters of men and y'all making freaking people with the heads of falcons and yo, no, this is not what I planned. Kill everything. Stop. Put your thing back in your pants and start over again, right? That's Anu. So it was that Cain line that was like Anu referred to this concept of being spirit and clay, or breath and clay, and being combined in one vessel, which again you have later with made out of the dust, and in the Sumerian text it says made out of the slime of the earth, but made out of the and of course slime has different. Slime is not like, don't look at it just like, I don't think they have double D anymore. But like, like just like some gooey, I mean, it could be like goo, like, primordial ooze. But slime is actually something that when you study biology, slime is an actual, scientific term, as is ooze, but you have like water slime, but there are different classifications of actual slime, right? But in the Sumerian text, you have made out of the slime of the earth, and the Hebraic text, you have made out of the dust of the earth. But either way, we're talking about leftover, whereas one may be more connected to fungi. The other one is just more direct, more based around leftover, right? So but either way, it's the garbage aspect, right? So the thing is, so let's go back. I'm just going through the scriptures a little bit. Like I said, when we look at Cain, and Cain's name is to possess or to acquire, to get, but Habel is breath, but it also can be vanity. So you start to maybe look at the story a little bit. Because it could be Habel could be vanity, pasture, or breathing. But Abel is something different. But you start to realize that like maybe he was kind of a jerk. Just in name, it's very similar to when we studied about Abigail, and David, and we see, okay, well, Naaman, like, okay, his name means fool, like, and remember the name is the description. That name that's given decides what the responsibility will be. So just like Cain being named to acquire or possession, because there's an interesting line that you got to look at here for. This is when it gets maybe a little rough for some people, but everyone's trying to take everybody's spot. That's the first 4 chapters of Genesis. That's what I caught. Like when I first read it years ago, I'm like, everybody's trying to take everybody's spot. I remember as a teenager reading that, and I was like, because in the beginning, the Elohim are making man in their image. And remember, when he says make them, he's not just talking about like, I made one hermaphrodite. He's talking about I made a generation of people. I made a bunch of people, not just one person. There's a bunch of them. That's what the them is. And then the serpent comes along, right? Enlil or Enki. The serpent comes along and was like, oh man, let me liberate you from that, because they're enslaving you. Let me bring you some light. The serpent came along and was a foreshadowing of the Lucifer aspect of like, they got you in the dark. Let me turn the lights on up in here. Let me tell you what's really happening, right? But you already received instructions from your creator. So now a Johnny come lately comes along and is like, don't worry about it. I know they created you and they got a plan, but let me tell you what to do, right? But then these things are said to who? The woman, right? And the woman could have been like, nah, my man told me this and that. I'm gonna stick with that. But the way I always read it as a youth was, okay, so the Most High spoke to Adam, and Hawa or Eve or woman at that time was like, well, I want somebody to speak to me. So she finds herself a demigod. I mean, they were all demigods, but she finds herself even a lesser god to speak to, the serpent. I'm gonna go there. So it's almost like you see it often today. What do they say? Nice guys finish last. Like in the dating game, you could come and you could be bringing great light to a woman and great instruction and things like that. And she will go for the lesser light. She'll go for the serpent and instead. And then when that messes up, she gets kicked out the garden and all that. Then she wants to go and be in the presence of the good light again. But sometimes that's because she wants something that you have. I get that all the time, even in my work. I'll talk to certain sisters who reach out to me for consultations or readings. They're married. And I'll say, well, what's your husband doing? Oh, he goes to church. So why don't you go to church with him? This speaks to me more. That's not what it is. You just don't want to fall under him. You want your own God. So while he's over there serving Jesus, you want to come over here and serve and service Oshun. You just want your own God. You see? So everyone's trying to take everyone's spot. You see? So the serpent is trying to take the spot of the Most High, and then the woman is trying to take the spot of the man. And then we fast forward, and then we have Cain, who's trying to take the spot of his brother Habel. So you keep seeing this like cycle of everyone's trying to usurp, or they want to possess what someone else possesses instead of functioning within their own role, which would be obedience, as opposed to sin, which is not being able or not being willing to function within your own capacity. And that's why, in Genesis 4, when he says, and Cain went out from the presence of Yahweh and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. You see, and like I said, that Nod, whereas like Eden is representative of a mental condition of love and pleasure and joy and peace. Nod is the exact opposite. Nod is to toss. So if I'm tossing, that means I'm like a boat that doesn't have an anchor. Your anchor is your identity, right? So the storms may be raging all around you, but if my anchor is dropped, like I know where I'm at. I know my positioning. Yeah, I may be bouncing around, but I got my positioning, right? And that's what Eden was. Eden was a solidified state of mind where you were anchored in the rules and the laws of the Most High, right? And then once you lost that, it's like, well, damn, what am I doing? Like, what am I out here doing? Which is a common thing. People feel like I'm just lost. I don't know where to start. That's when you know you're living a Cain existence. And why are you living a Cain existence? What does his name mean? Possess. Okay, so now I got to look at what am I looking to possess? What am I attached to? Am I too focused on earthly attainment? Am I unwilling to detach? Because that will lead to me losing sight of my purpose and my direction. Real easy, right? And you find that, most of the time when we were young, we didn't you knew what you was doing as long as you didn't have nothing. Once you get something, it's like, I used to see that a lot, like in the music industry when I was in the industry years ago. Even I mean, truth be told, even with myself to a degree, when you first come in, like you're so amenable. I remember doing music for different artists, and when I first came into the game, like I would play myself a lot because I just wanted to, back then the big thing is like get your song on the radio, like that. If you're on you made it, So I would, if an artist wanted me to do this part over, change the key. Can you speed it up? Can you slow it down? Like all this extra, like damn, I gotta do the whole song over again. But I don't care. All right, whatever, I'll do it. You don't have a whole lot of boundaries because you just really want something to happen. And truthfully, you ain't got no money. You know what I mean? Like, I came into the industry as a teenager. So, I had money, but I mean not money like the people did that I was working with, you know. So you're more amenable. But then I remember when, yeah, I got a couple of checks, and it was like, nah, the key is fine, man. You just, you just need to sing it in a different melody, because obviously that's too high for you, but we don't need to change the key. The tempo, nah, the tempo is good, man. We don't need to speed up, man. Everything don't need to be 95 BPM. It's good where it's at. Now you're arrogant. Now you're like, nah, man, we ain't gonna do it, because you got some money in your pocket. You ain't trying to hear that, man. So I'm trying to get you looking at your watch. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, man, we got the spot rented for like another 3 hours, man. So lay something down. You got to record something, man, because we out of here in like 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? Because now the checks came in, and you know what I'm saying, looking all right. Was able to put some rims on the car. Back then, that was the thing. You know what I mean? Got some rims on the car. Got a little jewelry, man. I'm out. I'm looking at my little gaudy watch. Gold nugget. But that's how it goes. So that's when and then what happens is you do start to lose direction. Even artistically, you start to lose direction. Somebody says, well, you know what? Just make something. Just go into the studio and black out. Just like make something that you would really want to make. You get in there, it's like, I don't even know. You lose connection with your own voicing. And sometimes it takes many years to get that back. It takes like 10 years to get that back, right? That's because you got locked into a Cain or a possessor or acquisition loop of Cain. I want this, I want that. I want everything that's beyond my purpose, everything that's beyond my station, everything that's beyond my role. And it's now ruling over me. That's when the Most High was talking about sin ruling over you, where you are supposed to master sin. Notice that the Most High said he's supposed to master it and not eradicate it. And you see that go down through his line, right? So even when Enoch comes forth, Enoch's name means gift or the gift, right? So now we're talking about, go to that scripture. We're talking about the line of Cain or the line of Cain. And Enoch means my gift, right? So, like most names will mean like gift from God or God gives gift or something like that. Enoch means my gift or thy gift. So obviously there's a concept there of the sensations of the ego being activated, and to the point that Cain built a city named after Enoch. My gift, this is mine, my gift, right? And so you have now this line of egotism that's going down. And then then he has Mehujael or Ma'iel. Sometimes it's Ma'iel or Mehujael, because remember there's no J's in Hebrew, so it would be like Ma'iel. But he has Ma'iel, and Ma'iel means to be away from Elohim. That's what that name means. It means to be away from a life with Elohim. That's Ma'iel, or my. If you see it written, you'll see in the Bible Mehujael. But remember, J is Y. So Mehujael or Ma'iel or Mehujael, right? But it means to be cut off from the life with Elohim, cut off from life with Elohim, right? So you're seeing a steady fall through his bloodline, right? Then he has Methusael, right? So Methusael is it means that we saw death be sent out, like the one who sends death, or the dispatcher, the dispatcher of death. That's Methusael, right? And you have to learn about the life of Methusael, because that was like kind of deep too, but he represents like the dying of morality of like Cain's line. Like now we're, dispatching death means that I'm losing my connection to what's even right and wrong at this point. All of these names mean something. I'm giving you light. I'm not even getting deep into it. So then the next birth year, that's when we go to Lamech. And Lamech is like, it means to be to be humbled is Lamech. Lamech, to humble, or to face humiliation, or it represents like the soul going through like a pain, but that pain is what brings humiliation, right? So now we're getting closer to where we're supposed to be. And then at that point, Lamech takes two wives, right? He takes Zillah and he takes Adah, right? And um Adah, right? Adah brings forth Jabal, and Jabal was the one with the tent with the cattle, and Jubal, which sounds like Jubilee, is the one who's dealing with the harp and the organ and music and all that stuff like that. Adah means to see or to witness. I have witnessed something. That's Adah. Um, and you remember Lamech is humility, or to like some will even say like he grovels, but I would say humility. I think the groveling is a little bit of a reach. But this is humility now comes together with the witness. So now you have like there is a projected path of what we're supposed to do, and there's no stumbling. Now we're getting closer to my natural self, getting closer to the ground, getting back to what is natural. And Adah bears witness to how things that are considered to be worthless can still help accomplish what it is that you're supposed to do, right? And then we have Jabal and or Jobel, Yobel or Yabal, because you remember again the J thing, right? So I'm just reading the scripture. My text here has a J, but Yabal is one that represents an altering, like an altering of consciousness, Yabal, or Yabel. And you take that with Adah. So you have to understand that these names are a formula. So when you have Adah, Lamech, and Yabel or Yabal, like these are all formulas, right? So it's the concepts of altering, but but now you are excited about what you witness in being born, the good things that are being born now, and there's a moving now of what your natural boundaries are now in this space. So the concept there of moving natural boundaries can bring a level of like hex. You can curse yourself by doing that. So now we humble ourselves now to find our boundaries again. That's when you get into Deuteronomy 19, where it says, "Thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's boundaries." Boundaries are important. Or actually, it's "Thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's boundaries, which thy father hath set up." Right. So that's a reference. That's a precept to this. It's a correlation, right? Because who's the father who set up the boundaries? The Most High, right? So now we're trying to learn again and witness what those boundaries are supposed to be. Then we have Jubal or Yubal, and Yubal means to incline in a certain way, right? So now we get back to closer to direction. Yubal, which is a foreshadowing of Judah, or even Judas, Yehuda or Judah, and Jubal. It's a very deep connection there, because there's two Judahs, there's two Yehudas, there's two. One day we'll break that down, but it's not what you think. That one is evil, but we'll get into that. So now Jubal, which represents going in a certain way, represents a mind that's now coming into focus. Things are coming into focus now, and he represents that ability now for the, where all that tossing around of Nod is now he's able to now start to anchor himself. So you start to see that there's kind of a redemption of the bloodline. And then we have Zillah, and Zillah gave birth to Tubal Cain. Tubal Cain was one who worked in brass and in iron, right? So we're now coming into the Iron Age. And Zila means that which is a shadow of something else. Zila is actually also Selah. Sometimes you've heard the name Selah. I think Lauryn Hill's project, she had a song called Selah. But Selah and Zila, they are the same. Selah, Sela. Sometimes you see it Selah, but it just means like that which is a shadow, right? So you have this shadow concept, and when you have Tuba Cain, you have someone who's now that wielder of the hammer and the smith of brass and iron now represents the forming and the fashioning of the human character. Just like when you look at Ogun, or when you look at in the Nordic tradition, you have Vulcan, but these are energies that are now saying, okay, now we're going to go through the tugging and waging war. Tubal Cain was crazy. You know what I mean? You need madmen to bring sanity, because when something's going to the left or something's going to the right, somebody says, we'll just kill one of them, and then there'll be one way. You see? So that's that concept coming forth of now there being a oneness again of a particular direction. And that means that wars are going to be waged and weapons are going to be made. And, we coming into the Bronze and the Iron Age and things like that. So we have that. And then, of course, we come from Tuba Cain to Neymar or Nomen, but Neymar, and Neymar means fat. That's what the name Neymar means. It means fat or fatness. Right. So it takes us back to the fatness of the first of the flock of Habel. Right. Remember when he gave, and then he gave the fat or the best choice or the top choice. So fatness means like now there is a there's a comfortability of material things that are around me. Like, I'm not poor anymore. I'm fat now. So I have established myself and foundated myself. And now my challenge or my work is to make sure that I'm still giving honor and respect to the creator, and not neglecting that responsibility, because I have now created a certain comfort. But Neymar was able to crave after the spirit of the Most High, as well as she was considered like a chieftain in fatness. And of course, we know Neymar eventually was one of the wives of Noah. But Neymar, and keep in mind, we're talking about a line of deities. These were not Adam's children, because remember, Adam knew Eve, she bare Cain, and said, Jehovah or Yahweh or Enki has given me a male, has given me a man child. Okay. So this is the line of Cain. And then we get a line later when we get to Seth's line. But again, like I said, if Cain was such a bad person, why would he be the first one to get a genealogy? You figure to be like, man, get rid of him. We don't want to hear about him. He killed his brother. He who we doth not speak of. It'd be like, but no, he was still a very important character. And, Habel, of course, the line was cut. And then it was Adoma who said when he had Seth again, now Seth again continued the righteous line. That's kind of messed up too, because it was like when Seth came forward, he was like, okay, now I have a replacement for the child that was killed. That's like, man, what about his purpose? Like, what about his identity? Imagine like being born and like your parents being like, oh yeah, you are the replacement for the child we aborted, so you're going to do what that child did, but anyway, that's how I went back then. But then you see also the correlation in some of the characters, because there's two Enoch. Seth also has an Enoch in his family, but he has an Enosh, and Enosh, which is his first child, is similar to Enoch, and remember where he had Enosh, Cain had Enoch. There's a dualism there. We'll maybe get into that in a little while. And of course, as you know, Seth goes straight down all the way to Noah, who then has Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and you know the whole story from that there. So that's essentially some of the interesting things of Genesis 4. and some of the things that happened to Cain. And like I said, the mark of Cain, as they call it, was not a mark; it was an oath. Okay, and they just gave us the wrong word. They gave us the wrong word. They said it was a mark of Cain, and it was dark skin and all that. And none of that makes any sense if you know about even what the people look like back then. And when Lamech was like, yo, I beat somebody up out of my anger and this and that, what he was actually talking about Habel. That's the deep part there. Because you notice he doesn't mention when Lamech says unto his wife, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, because Zillah or Selah is what? The witness. No, Adah is a witness, excuse me. Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech. Now, that's, again, we got a line of jerks here, because who talks to their wife in the third person? Like, this is kind of like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's a little arrogant, you know. Lamech says, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech. For I have slain a man to my wounding and a young man to my hurt. He's talking about what has happened in his bloodline. He's talking about what Cain did. And he's saying how if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. And then it goes right to, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. For Yahweh said, she hath appointed me another seed instead of Habel, whom Cain slew. Now notice this time she didn't say, Yahweh hath given me a seed. She said, Yahweh hath appointed me a seed. And the concept there of appointed is kind of interesting, because it actually represents a foundation. It's like Yahweh has foundated me with another seed, in that sense. But either way, and there's some debate there, I have always thought that Seth was also a product of Elohim, but that's a different kind of theory. But we know without a doubt that Cain was a Nephilim. He's a Nephilim. And we know that the serpent, this is why I told you guys before, serpent, Satan, Lucifer, they're not all the same entity. Lucifer and Satan are more concepts, more than anything. But the serpent, again, you have to go look at I almost wish I was screen sharing and stuff. You have to look at old Sumerian reliefs and just go find images of Enki and Enlil, and you will find tops of man's, bodies of serpents, and then try to reapply some of that understanding, if it makes sense to you, to the story, and I think you'll get a better sense. And even when you learn about his half sister Ninki or Kiki or Ninti, and the experience that they had with the rib and being the lady of the rib, there's a lot to this, and there's so much more I could go into in Genesis 4, because then we start to get into the slave races, and we start to get into the whole concepts of being appointed to mine for gold, and what was really happening in Genesis 1. Like, why were they really created? Were they just created because the Most High wanted somebody to love, or needed because remember, Adoma was a group of people, generation, or what these people were like, all right, now y'all gonna go till the earth. What does serve the earth mean? Does it mean that I need you to serve the earth so you can grow food to eat? Because can we just eat from the trees? The trees are here, right? Or does serve the earth mean go mine the earth for gold? That's your job. Go mine the earth for gold. And why are so many disciplines ending back up in agriculture? Why are we always digging stuff out of the ground? It goes into another direction. All right. So we're at like a little bit over the 2-hour mark, which where we were last time, which is, or did we go to 3 hours? I don't know. I think it was around 2, 3. But anyway, I didn't want to go more than 2. But I wanted to give you another perspective on Genesis, right? So we've covered psychological, we've covered historical, we've covered the metaphysical, And now we've even covered the extraterrestrial. Okay, just with 4 chapters, and we didn't even do a lot of Hebraic breakdowns. Like I said, normally when I'm studying, if you have not watched the first one we did, I advise you to go back, because I shared just a little bit of how I might study something. And like I said, I would stay on the word Bereshit. I could be on that for 2-3 months, you know. But as we went, I went a little faster. Like especially with this one, I didn't break down all the names like I could have, or like got into like Samuel, because Samuel is in Genesis 4. Um, but I did that on purpose, just so for the purposes of kind of getting to it. Or like, what does it really mean to be the lady of life? Or the lady of the rib, or like when Ninsakil tells Utu to bring water to the earth, fresh water, and then there's so much there. But at some point, just like how we did the Hebraic piece, I'll get into the Sumerian piece with you as well. And the reason I'm doing this is not to give you more old mythologies to dig into, just to have, but it's so that you can increase the intelligence of maybe even the discussions that you have around the Bible, right? So if you notice, like all of this that we've broken down so far, just in these little 4 chapters, which is not a lot of reading, that we've broken down, it has not taken us to a Christian space, right? So you have sat here and read the Bible like a quote unquote African. You have gone through African languages, because if you're speaking Hebrew, you're speaking an Afro-Shemitic language. It's African, right? And you are reading quote unquote African stories, whether we're reading about Enki and Ninki and Utu, or we're reading about Hawa and Adoma and Noah, and Methuselah, and Jubael. These are indigenous people. You're reading about your culture, whether you're African or not. Now, and that's one of the things that I wanted to point out. Like, it's not just genetically, ethnically significant. It's significant to the spirit, right? Because you're reading about the journey of the soul, and ultimately how quick we can fall into despair. So if you notice, just in just a very few short generations, you see how far man had fallen. From the first fall of Adoma and Hawa, and then like immediately to their children, the very next generation, boom, now there's murder. Like, and then when I read you the line of Cain, you saw what comes next. This comes and that comes and that comes, but then this is the path of redemption, right? So one of the things that you learn with this is how quickly things can spin out of control. Especially when you're in that place and you're not functioning on purpose, and you're tossing and you're in the land of Nod. When you're in that land and you're tossing about and you're meandering and you're wandering like a vagabond, and you're bewildered, which I've told you before, the root of bewilder is wild or wilderness. When you're just walking through the wilderness with no purpose, and it may seem sexy, like when you're talking about spirituality, you're like, I just do my own thing. I don't get into that. I don't get into this. A lot of times those are masked statements and tricks to stay confused. And just like how we're often taught the book in a wrong way to keep us confused, a lot of times we will then perpetuate the different ideas and messages to maintain that confusion, with a lot of our slick sayings. So even when someone pulls a Bible out, we're like, man, I'm not trying to hear that, man. That's a slave master's book. That's what they used to enslave. They didn't use that to enslave you. Nobody used the Bible to enslave you, because heck, in the 1940s, the Moors, or the blacks who were in America, had a higher literacy rate than the whites. So, I mean, 1940, not that far out of slavery, and you could read better than they could. That should tell you something. They did not use the book to enslave you. But also don't fall for that myth that they didn't even allow us to read. You could read. Certain people were allowed to read because they needed you to read to perform certain tasks. Everybody wasn't picking cotton. Everybody wasn't picking tobacco. You know, that's a part of the trick. If you were just picking tobacco and cotton, how did Benjamin Banneker get to engineer all the streets and the architecture of Washington, D.C.? How did they even know he could do that? There was plumbing in ancient Kemet. There were toilets. Ancient Kemet had toilets. And there was light inside of the pyramids, although when they go and they study them, they find no char marks that would indicate that there were torches of candles or even candles inside of the deepest recesses of the pyramids. So they didn't get light by fire. They had electricity. We see images of ships in ancient Kemet. I mean, why do you think the pyramids were so big? You think just because it was like, oh, we got to build them up to the heavens? If you were going back and forth to the moon, wouldn't you need a landing platform that was sturdy enough to hold your ship? Real simple, right? Some things are right in front of you, but again, because of the dogma, is like, nah, nah. I mean, it talks about, Enoch being taken up to the home of the Most High and learning and then coming back. That sounds like me being taken by aliens, being taught advanced culture or like science and technology, and then coming back and sharing it with people. But nah. Can't be that. But it says that. Like it's right there. It's right in front of you. So, like I said, willfully, this particular chapter I was hoping would be more like a myth buster and will maybe compel you to read a little bit different as you go back into it, or go back into any of these books and really look at, what am I really reading here and what's missing? So I wanted to go to chapter 4 because this is the chapter of all the missing stuff, and perhaps to compel you to now look at what came before some of these books. And like I showed you Adapa, the original Adoma and Eve, and the story of Enki and him eating the 8 forbidden fruits, and they said you're gonna die if you eat the fruits, and him dying right before he died, taking the rib out and then repairing the rib again. And I showed it to you, right? You can look it up. I didn't write it, right? So then maybe that will help your studies a little bit, because you'll recognize that, okay, well, maybe it's not evil to read the Apocrypha or to read the book of Ezra, or of Barnabas, or some of these other texts, the Maccabees, awesome book, and then maybe I can read the Enuma Elish and look at some of these tablets and the epics of Gilgamesh. Maybe it's not evil, because who's to say that the Most High did not inspire those? Like, why do I only think this book is it? Why can't I read the sealed Book of Mormons? What about that book? And just look at the name, more is all in and out of that book. Like, Joseph Smith was obviously a Hebrew Israelite, like obviously all the wives, and so hopefully that will help your journey a little bit in your study. So next strong, we will be back to our regular schedule with our brothers and our sisters going through the readings. And this was a short series. I'm going to do some more, but I just wanted to kind of see how you all received it. So far, it seems like it's been pretty good. I didn't want to do too much, and then I wanted to just kind of gauge feelings, but people have kind of been reaching out and really been thankful. Like it really seems like you needed this. So I'm so thankful. So very thankful to the Most High, man, for putting it on my heart, because people have been reaching out like, man, I always wanted to understand this, and like you broke it down and now I get it, so that wasn't my intention to like unstick you. So I'm glad that actually happened in the process, man. So that was really cool. I'm really appreciative of that. And for those of you who've been checking out the music project as well, Year My Arise, I've been getting some really awesome feedback on it. I'm just laughing because one sister wrote me a note and she didn't believe it. She didn't believe. She's like, "You don't play all those instruments. Who did all that?" I was like, "Yeah, I did everything." And she's like, "You don't look like somebody who could do that." It was just a funny kind of exchange. It was, she didn't mean anything by it, but she just was like, she didn't realize that I did. And she was like, and then I'm listening to some songs and the voice is high and then the voice is low. Who is that? Like, it's me. Maybe I got a lot of demons in me. I don't know. Maybe I got the demon of Frankie Lyman is inside of me, maybe, along with the demon of Barry White. I don't know, man. Just got a lot of sounds in me. I don't know. I can't help it. But I was just laughing at it because I was like, yeah, I think it was yesterday. She sent that note to me. She's like, I'm confused. She's like, I really like it, but I'm confused. So yeah, man. I just wanted to thank you all for who've been really enjoying that and pumping that and just sharing that journey with me, because it's, I guess for those of you who've heard some of the lyrics already, you probably already figured out that obviously a lot of the songs are about people who were very dear to me who transitioned. So it's like I guess a memorializing in a way. And it required a lot of vulnerability on my part, to even share, just like how some of that feels, how some of that feels, some of what these great events, and great not necessarily in pleasure, but just some of these significant events, sometimes what they mean, and some of the things that kind of go through your mind. And I'm not done. I have more that's just a small sample. I've been creating like a monster. So I got more that I'm going to share with you as well. But yeah, Yerma Rise it's important. Yeah. It's important. So yeah, man. I'm glad, you're more than what I see. Thanks in the chapter 4 always lost me. This was in like, oh, that's good, MGC. So that's funny because your wife says she said she never understood any of chapter 4, and you said it always lost you. So I guess the whole house is on point now, man. So that's good, man. I'm glad that was able to help you out. And yo, let me tell you, man, like there's so much more. Like oh God, there's so much more. Like I wish I could just get all of y'all and we could get on some land for a couple of days. Like that would be nice, man. If we could just get on some land for like 4 days, get all the food we need, all the water, and then we could just go in. Like I could really, there's a lot that I didn't share with you, like in terms of the numerology. This is the first time you heard me talk about the Sumerian piece, but the Sumerian piece is in Genesis 1, actually. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't want to, I mean? I didn't want to overload you with too much, but Utu says, I got time. Word. I mean, we'll do it. You know what I mean? It's necessary, but there's so much just in these 4 chapters. And I mean, like, then by the time we get to like the 6th chapter and like we're dealing with the flood legends, Noah, right? Then we have to go like, it's not just Noah, because that flood wasn't, that's an old story. That's a super old story. Because then we get into like the Cushite stories of the flood. That's really where the flood stories come from ancient Cush. Like, man, we could go on a journey. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot. But there's only but so much you could do on YouTube. I guess, I mean, I see some people do lives. Their lives would be like 4 hours. I don't know, man. Especially on a Sabbath. Now I know you guys, man. You want to rest, man. You've been working all strong and stuff like that. So I ain't really trying to, do that to you. And it's not good to take in a whole bunch of information before you go to sleep. So if we was doing this in the dawning, it'd be different. But before you go to sleep, you want to kind of allow your thoughts to settle down a bit instead of still studying and reading stuff. But yeah, man, trust me. I'm glad that you all found it very inspirational and learned a lot, and that's great. But trust me, man, don't think like you know it now, because there's a lot that we didn't even, like I said, I just told you today, like in a beginning, right? So what about the other beginnings? Did we get into the other names like Adonai? Well, who does Adonai rule over? And then you heard me use a term, I think in the first or second chapter when I spoke about the Raphaim. Some of you probably never even heard that term before. You probably heard of the Nephilim, you've heard of that, but you probably didn't know that there was another group, the Raphaim, ruled over by the archangel, archenergy Raphael, right? That's a whole nother chamber to explore. And then we get into not just the metaphysics of it all, but the magic, right? I know you think a lot of times that the magic, trust me, there's so much. This is deeper than the stuff you think is deep. Trust me, it's deeper, because not only are you talking about magic, but you're learning how to think as a ruler, an extraterrestrial ruler. And you know how you know it's powerful, right? Because it forces you to come to a powerful realization. You could ask whatever God you thinking you serving, because like I said, when you start studying, you realizing what you thought you serving, you wasn't really serving. Ask that guy right now. I don't know if you got a candle lit or a pen or something sitting on the table. Ask that guy right now to knock it off the table. Blow the candle out. Nothing's gonna happen. Go ahead, try doing it. Nothing will happen. Because I promise you, whatever you serving doesn't have the power to do it. That's the trick bag. Sometimes you're serving something that has no morality, but it's just older and trickier and more foreign than you are. So as a result, you bow down and serve it and don't even realize that it's not even a real deity. That hint was dropped, but it was done in such a sick, perverted way. That show Stargate, when they did the movie Stargate, right? Even the show too, but the movie came out back in the days. And when they went, over to that other planet, and they had like Ra and all these Kemetic archetypes, Anpu, and they took off their helmets, and they were just aliens, right? Basically, they were basically aliens, But that was to undermine your understanding of the Netir. That's what that really was. But there was a truism to that, though. There's a truism. Sometimes we get caught up in that spookism. Even like with ancestors, man, I pray to my ancestors. For what? Why would you pray to your ancestors? Why? What power all of a sudden do your ancestors have because they died? That's stupid. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to your ancestors. If you want to talk to your ancestors, talk to your ancestors. But to begin to get into this space because something is not in front of you, and you can now imagine its greatness, it now becomes great. You're giving your power to things you shouldn't give your power to. And I got ancestral shrines, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not undermining, but I understand how I'm relating to those energies. And for the most part, I'm hooking them up by remembering them. There's no like, my ancestors going to get you. They don't have the power to do that. That's just the truth of it. They don't have the power to do that. They're spirits. I mean, the Most High, as you read, created man in his image and his likeness, created he them, then said, in order to till the ground, to serve the ground, to get us that goal, we're going to have to create a body. So you mean to tell me you didn't make man powerful enough in the spirit form to do whatever needed to be happen in the physical form? No, because spirit isn't powerful enough to do that. So a lot of times what we're serving, we're not serving what we think we're serving. And that's one of the powerful things that could come when you really start to study. You realize, man, you start to narrow the road. What you saw was happening with the line of Cain. There started to become like a narrowing of purpose and vision. Like, nah, I don't need to be surrounded by 5 million quote unquote gods. Just because something's old, or certain people used to worship something doesn't mean that it still needs to be worshiped. It doesn't mean that it should have ever been worshiped. Just because you find some old ancient deity that some African group worship doesn't mean that it was any good. That's again that mystery god spookism. Everything from Africa is more some of the stuff they do is as backwards. To this day is as backwards. Some of the stuff they do is ass backwards. And as a result, they experience the curse of that ass backwardsness. Right? So there has to be an evolving of things. And some of the things they do are more superior. Yeah. Some of the things they do, we need to look at like, yeah, we need some of that back. But and when I say they, I'm just talking about anybody who's living a more indigenous lifestyle, because just to call yourself an African is stupid. There's no such thing as an African. The groups that existed that a lot of times we look at and call African are older than the concept of Africa. The Hausa are older than the concept of Africa. Igbo are older than the concept of Africa. Kushites, so the Nubians are older than the concept of Africa. You know what I'm saying? So this hopefully empowers you to really look at and figure out if you are worshiping a mystery spook god, or if you are coming to an understanding of who and what your Elohim is, your Elohim, and why you're on the journey that you're on based on where your Elohim is taking you, or where your Yah is taking you, and you're more than welcome, Sham the Joy, for pushing you out of the lazy scholarship. Yeah, we all got digging to do. Me too. I still dig and study. Yeah, I'm not done. I'm not done. There's a lot of things that I still explore. Not necessarily things that I teach you. A lot of stuff that I teach, like I said, I don't like to teach anything that I haven't I don't want to say mastered, because you can't master anything, but I don't like to teach anything that I'm not really thoroughly proficient in, because and have applied. Because if you ask a question, I like to be able to help you. So the stuff that I'm still studying, you'll probably hear 10 years from now. You're not going to hear it now. I let stuff season and soak in really before I say, hey, here's a concept. Unless it's just something light in passing, but for the most part, I take my responsibility very seriously. And I know that I could say one thing that could make you go left and send you off the path for 3 years. So I make sure whatever I am sharing is in, it's really soaked in. But yeah, we're all studying together. Trust me, you just might be studying different stuff, but studying it. And thank you for the feedback on the music. Those who said you enjoyed it and liked it. I saw some of it in the chat, by the way. I wasn't ignoring you. All right, so I'm gonna head out. We've been here for a very long time, and like I said, I don't know who's next strong, if it's the brothers or the sisters, but either way, it's gonna be good, and it's gonna be different because we're changing the format of a lot of things, man. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit different going forward, but feel free to come with your questions. You could hammer them with questions, but if you all have questions after you read or whatever, you can still leave them in the comments here. What I'll do is I'll have my assistant just scan these videos maybe for the next, let's say 7-10 days, something like that. So if any comments come in, I'll just have my assistant just tell me, hey, so ask a question. All right. So if anything comes up, don't, I'm still around. You can always ask and I'll answer to the best of my ability. And if I ignore to the best of my ability, it's something that you probably didn't need to ask me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. Everyone, please definitely enjoy your Sabbath, man, and be safe. Rest up. Get around your family and some people who love you and care about you, and people who you love and care about. Keep it light. Ask somebody how their spirit is. Take some opportunity to protect someone today. Don't kill nothing. Don't kill no dreams. Don't kill any hopes. Don't kill nothing, man. Thou shalt not kill. And remember that applies to other Israelites. So for everybody else, watch your back. All right, everyone. Be well. Peace, peace, peace. Chief Yu, out.